Alright guys, what is up? It's Jack and welcome back to another video. Now just by looking at the title, some of you might just want to consider it blasphemous and start like saying, how in the world can you even compare the two? Modern Warfare is just so much better. Black Ops 4 was a piece of shit, yada yada yada. And I could definitely understand where you guys are coming from, because every single time I talk about Black Ops 4 to somebody and why they don't really like that game and why they don't trust Treyarch, etc, 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 is because the microtransaction system, and they're 100,000% right. I don't agree with it myself. If I did, I would be I would be a very bad person in my opinion. But the thing is, what if all of a sudden we took that out? What if all of a sudden we took the microtransaction system out of the reasons why we hate Black Ops 4 for a second, and when you look at it from a little bit more in-depth perspective, I think that question is a little bit more difficult to answer straight away when you really look at it. It's kind of like, excuse me, it's kind of like a duck on a pond, right? Like on the surface, it looks like that duck is just floating from one side of the pond to the other, and things are just super peaceful, sure, but at the same time, underneath, that duck's little feet are just moving around. So in other words, under the surface, there's a lot more, especially if you are a person that has been playing Call of Duty for years, and especially if you take the game to a certain amount of seriousness. But either way, whether you've been playing the game for years or whether you take the game seriously or whatever the deal is, it's a little bit harder to answer such a question, in my opinion. And the thing that makes it so fascinating to me is because there are varying different reasons as to why. For instance, it's a lot easier to like Modern Warfare simply because of the amount of content, especially at launch. I mean, if you look at the amount of maps, the amount of weapons you can play with, the modes, like you got Ground War, you got 3 different kinds of maps for Ground War. You've got campaign, granted it's short, but it's a solid campaign. You got Spec Ops, and then you got the multiplayer with varying different modes, free DLC and all that kind of stuff. All that, there's a huge chunk of that we didn't get in Black Ops. So, because with Black Ops, in terms of the multiplayer, there was a lot of opposite going on. Like, for instance, we didn't get as many weapons, especially per weapon category at launch. The amount of maps, as well as another thing, varying game modes, free DLC, amount of different ways that you can customize the class. But granted, to be honest, you know, if you find the right combination of attachments in Modern Warfare, you've got the class that pretty much most people are gonna use. It's simple as that. It's just a matter of finding the right combination. There could be a little subtle differences here and there, but nothing drastically different than what's been done with previous Call of Duties. And some people will even say that it sucks that some attachments are making your class worse, but that at the same time, there are some people that say, hey, that's how the balance comes in and all this and all these kind of things. So as you can see with me just mentioning all these little things, is that there are so many different combinations of varying points of view that point in so many different directions as to why one game is better over the other. So excluding microtransactions, in your opinion, from a Call of Duty perspective, like as a Call of Duty game, okay, which do you think is better? Because the thing is, and like I said, I wouldn't be surprised in the comment section if I see a complicated answer, because the question itself, although it's simple, is actually, it's kind of hard to answer that question when you look at it from every single angle. So like if you look at, for instance, in my opinion, humbly speaking, the movement in Black Ops 4 is superior. And as a Twitch arcade first-person shooter, Black Ops 4 is superior. In terms of realism, Modern Warfare is superior. In terms of graphics, Modern Warfare is superior. In terms of content at launch, Modern Warfare is superior. But from a gameplay perspective, in my humble opinion, I know the gunplay feels good to a lot of people, and I agree to a certain extent. But the play style from a gameplay perspective, it only supports one style, and in terms of getting punished for moving around, kind of really ruins the potential that game has. Because that's what Call of Duty is, really. It doesn't really cater to any specific style. And the thing is, with Modern Warfare, they decided to take that route and decided to make it a very defensive game. So from a gameplay perspective, in my opinion, Black Ops 4 is superior. Simple as that. I know that there are problems with it. As a matter of fact, I made a video not too long after Black Ops 4 came out, and it was titled 57 Things Wrong with Black Ops 4. And that was just after about 2 days or so of thinking about the things that I found wrong with the game. And 2 days later, after making that video, I was like, wow, that 57 could have probably gone up to 70. So, but I nitpicked at everything. And it was actually a very popular video for a channel of my size. The thing is, I more than recognize all the little things that go in, and at the same time, there are people with varying opinions. So as a Call of Duty game, in my opinion, overall, in terms of the multiplayer, from a gameplay perspective, even though we didn't get as much content as at launch, even though there was a lot of cut and paste with the maps and all that kind of stuff, in my opinion, Black Ops 4 is still a bit better game gameplay-wise, because there's a flow. There's not really much of a flow going on with Modern Warfare, unless you consider camping a flow, which absolutely makes no sense whatsoever. But when you look at it, I mean, there are so many different combinations of reasons as to why one game to a particular person would be superior over the other. So I was actually very curious to know, because, again, the biggest reason why I also made this video is also because, like, if you were to take the microtransaction system out of it, which Black Ops 4 just was basically a spit in the face up until now, up until recently, Black Ops 4's microtransaction system and the Black Ops Pass and all that kind of shit was pretty much a spit in the face to fans, and I can understand why they absolutely despise the game from it. But I'm asking players that are watching this video to take that out of the equation, because, like, I'm just asking from a pure gameplay, a Call of Duty gameplay perspective, and I'm really curious to see what the answers are. And the thing is, with the whole microtransaction system, another thing that has me really, really curious is that how, while I'm at it, I might as well touch on this, because your perspective is also valued as well. So it is so confusing as to who we should freaking blame for all this microtransaction bullshit, because take a look at this. With Infinity Ward, with Infinite Warfare, you could grind for weapons. In World War II, you could grind for weapons. You didn't have to spend money for weapons and microtransactions. And Infinite Warfare, I don't think that game was very popular. I don't think it sold as well as other Call of Duties. I think it's one of the ones that sold the least. It could have been the one that actually sold the least out of all of them. Granted, it was still first in terms of console sales, like it usually is every year, except for when Grand Theft Auto comes out, but that wasn't the case with Infinite Warfare. So I think it still made first, if I'm not mistaken. But with that being said, with the community, it was a very unpopular game for one reason or another. But if I were to go in depth into that, that's a whole other video. I don't know. I might have even made a video about it. But in terms of the whole microtransaction thing, like, who do you like? The Treyarch games up until Black Ops 4 were the most respected and even the most popular. So maybe in Black Ops 4 it was popular as well. Maybe it was more popular than we thought. But the thing is that they were the most respected. But the thing is, Black Ops 3 had a terrible microtransaction system. And Black Ops 4, although it was in some ways better, it was in other ways worse and a spit in the face. So the thing is, who do we blame? Because the thing is, with Infinity Ward, that game wasn't popular. So they needed microtransactions, right? But yet you can grind for all the weapons. But in Black Ops 3, that wasn't the case. The only way you can grind, I mean, you couldn't really grind for weapons specifically that you wanted through playing the game. Well, unless you were absolutely fucking lucky. But there are people out there that have spent hundreds, if not thousands of dollars on microtransactions. So that way they would basically have enough supply drops, rare supply drops, or cases, reserve cases, whatever the hell you want to call them, to be able to get the weapons. And it's pretty fucking ridiculous how much money people have spent on that. Obviously, content creators got away with it because, you know, they would make that money back on videos that they make. But at the same time, by the fans and the community, they're frowned upon for doing that, simply because, well, it's like in one way or another, you're still, even though you don't want to support the system, you're still supporting the system by posting videos like that, supply drop opening videos. That's why a lot of people frown upon it. But the thing is, who do we blame? And like, you got Vaughn over here saying, oh, I just make the shoes and all that kind of stuff. And yet at the same time, I mean, it's like, and then you got Condry tweeting out, not, you know, about a year or so ago saying, hey, not on my watch. So it's like, who is indeed the most responsible? I mean, it would make sense that it would be Activision. And I don't I don't get how an unpopular game like Infinite Warfare basically had a much better system in order to grind for weapons and stuff like that, and which helped the replay value of the game as well. And then you have a game that is a lot more popular and that is already making a lot more money in like, let's say, Black Ops 3, and all of a sudden they have a terrible microtransaction system. And it's like, why do they do that? So is it the devs? Or is it just all Activision? Like, that's the big thing, because when you look at it from all those perspectives, it can get pretty damn confusing. It's like, who the fuck do we blame? I don't know. I don't know. And at this point right now, it's kind of like it's kind of puzzling that not puzzling in a bad way, but it's like puzzling like with Black Ops 4 in terms of what they're doing now with the black market, with the update that's coming out that I mentioned in the previous video, and that's been on Charlie Intel and that other YouTubers have talked about as well. Like, why didn't they do this before? Why wasn't this done before? And the thing is, it just goes to show you, man, that, again, as I mentioned in previous videos, or in just one previous video, that a Call of Duty just seems to be at its best a year after its launch. Like, seriously. And I'm constantly seeing people's displeasure with Modern Warfare and all that kind of stuff, and I understand. But with that being said, the game does have a lot of potential, but I'm going to go as far as to say this, and I'm not the only person that has said this, especially with the video that specific content creator made yesterday, and I'm going to say who it is. It's PwnStars.com. He made a video yesterday talking about his opinions on Modern Warfare, and he mentioned, and I've mentioned this as well, and it just goes to show that, hey, I'm no longer a noob at Call of Duty, and if there's any chance that he's watching this, I just want to also thank you here and just say, you basically turned some of my thoughts into words in your video, and I appreciate that. And I've been inspired by so many content creators, including him, and I've watched, and I know Call of Duty at this point. There's still a lot that I'm learning. You never fully stop learning, but the thing is, even if they fix all the things that we've been asking, the maps are still the way they are, and the game is still going to play the way it is. Now, if they change everything the way we wanted to, in terms of the mini-map, in terms of the footsteps, the spawn system, and all that kind of other stuff, again, the game is still going to be campy because of the way the maps are designed. So it's still going to be, it's going to help speed it up a little bit. It's going to be easier to find those campers, but again, those people that play very defensive, because of design, the core design of the game is built for them. It's still going to be it's still going to be what it is now, just slightly less. Just with slightly less sauce on the dish. So but anyway, that's all I got for this one, guys. I'm about to go to overtime here. Let me know your opinions down in the comments section, and I'm really curious to see your perspective when you put everything together in terms of what you think is better from a gameplay standpoint as a Call of Duty, Black Ops 4 or Modern Warfare. Let it be known down in the comment section. And as always, if you enjoyed this video, let me know, and if you didn't, let me know what I can do to make my videos better, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.